That looks a lot messier than it's supposed to. Biblical gender roles. Your website looks absolutely atrocious. I'm sorry. Anywho. Oh, right. I'm still hiding behind the face. I should probably fix that, right? Okay, hold on. Give me just a second. And now there is no face. And a face there. Why do I have no face? You know what? I know why I don't have a face. I know why. Allow me just a moment. I can fix that. There we are. How's it going, guys? Sorry. All of my stuff was still like keyed in to Truth Wanted, so I actually couldn't be stuck there. But no, whenever I want to be terrifying, I can just snap my fingers and boom. So, anywho, how are y'all doing today? I know that this stream is a little later than originally intended, but Dan gave me a call and needed me on Truth Wanted, so I figured I would go ahead and take that out. Oh, why are we on BGR again? I thought we were practicing self-love. Okay, look. We are practicing self-love. However, I also love my job, and my job is exposing stuff like this. So, it's like a mixture form of self-love, self-hatred, something like that. Yeah, no, the father in the picture, definitely working on that. Did we get time at the water park? Yes, we did. Yumi is currently out of the room. Hopefully, I don't get any scratches on the door. If I do, then I'll have to let Yumi back in. I do love Yumi. Wait, Yumi is definitely inbound. Emmett, what are you doing? Anywho, so, that said, we actually do have something before we get into this. Normally, I like to get into fan art before an episode, not on live streams, but in my normal edited episodes. Today, instead of something like that, it is a live stream, and I do want to actually show you guys something. First of all, we need to load and unload the jar. The jar doesn't exist anymore. There we go. The tip jar has now been unloaded and reloaded. And why does it have stuff in it already? That's not supposed to be there. Why did that fall out? That's weird. Tip jar is weird. The tip jar is weird. Nothing has been missed yet. However, there is something that I want to show you guys before we get into the NIFB issue at hand. And, of course, this being Biblical General's take on something that happened with the NIFB last month. Ashley with the $5, just because I can deal with it. Thank you for the $5, Ashley. Here's what I'd like to show you guys. So, for everybody in the chat already knows, if you're tuning into my live stream, you probably already know Gaelic Knots is one of my girlfriends, and there's also Raz. And apparently Gaelic Knox decided that she wanted to make an animation of her annoying Raz. So, here we are, for fun. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I did. I enjoyed it enough to where I figured that I absolutely needed to show you guys, because it's great. It was absolutely wonderful. Emmett says, get that face away from me. That's fine. That's fine. We can always go to this. He is friend. So, that all said... hey, hello, how are you? Let us get into the actual topic at hand, because there's not a whole lot that I have to get into right now. There's no real updates so far on what has happened with the ceiling. Our plan going forward is basically just going to be repairing the ceiling ourselves, but we do have to remove the tree, because the tree is rotted, and this is not the first branch that has fallen down. This is just the first one that has speared through the roof. I'm really not wanting to roll my die on whether or not another 25-foot branch is going to fall off the top of a 100-foot, 200-foot tree. I really don't want to roll my die on whether or not another branch is going to fall down from that and try to shish kebab me. So, already had a close to death situation like 36 hours ago. So as to not repeat it, we're going to be removing that tree. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and do that. Just so this clears things up, Gaelic Knox is Emmett is a true statement. Yes, Gaelic is Emmett. Gaelic Knox is Emmett. Yeah, that's how you get them through your wall. Look, we have to get the tree down. Period. If the tree is not down, there's a chance of it doing more damage. Let's go ahead and just get rid of the tree. We're going to have to get rid of it section by section. We know that. Jack, if you want to eat the tree, by all means. Also, I still want to say, Jack, your Necosaurus art is wonderful, and it has become like an integral part of certain aspects of the channel. So thank you very much. That said, so a little bit of history on what has gone on. Did we have a bad storm? No, it was just like day was clear the day that happened. There wasn't even any wind. It was just this is why we're worried. The tree is actually rotting. So like apparently a section of the branch rotted just enough for it to fall, and gravity is a force, and it fell, a couple 100 feet. So that tree speared. Branch went down, speared right through, and then fell off broke off because, again, it's a rotted tree branch. So that was fun. As from what I understand, there didn't seem to be any termites in the wood itself. I know that we have them like way further back, maybe like 2 acres back on the property, but none of them have really encroached close. So, that's fun. But again, a little bit of backstory for biblical gender roles and what we're going to be doing here today. Obviously, I've covered many a biblical gender roles episode, many of their articles. There's something else that I want to get into on the website as well. Apparently, the owner of the website believes that they have been doxxed in some way, which is something that neither me nor anyone that I am aware of have actually done anything to cause that. But I do want to take a look at their claim. I've seen just the article itself, not the contents of it, so we'll take a look at that once we are done with this. However, this article itself is about Pastor Grayson Frillis. Is it Frillis or Fritz? I believe Fritz. It's Fritz. I'm sorry. I'm an idiot. So, what history do we have with Pastor Grayson Fritz? Well, Pastor Grayson Fritz was a preacher, and he was in Tennessee, about 3 hours north of me, in Knoxville. And he preached at a church that is known to be an NIFB church. This man is a subservient bootlicker to Steven Anderson. And he was preaching the usual Steven Anderson rhetoric of, kill the homosexuals, blah, blah, blah. We've all heard it 1,000 times now. There is no shock value in that. We know exactly how Steven Anderson operates, and I have done episodes literally detailing how he operates. So, what did he say that was different? Well, what he did say in his sermon was that he believes that homosexuals not only should be killed, but he believes that it should be the purpose of the police force to do so. Well, this causes some problems considering that he is actually part, or was at least beforehand, was part of the police force. So that should catch you up on like the gravitas here, is that a member of the police force was publicly speaking to people who have the ability to vote and therefore lead to legislation on his personal views on the matter, which is that he thinks that he should be able to arrest people for simply existing as gay. Right? That's basically what he wants. So, again, not outside of the purview of Steven Anderson and others that we've dealt with over 1,000 times. It's just a little bit different when you take into account that we're dealing with somebody who has actual power here, not just power to sway a crowd, but somebody who actually works within the system within the police force system itself as a detective. As a result, he actually has his fingers in many of these affairs. That makes rhetoric like that infinitely more dangerous, because now we have somebody who we know would be actionable if they had the power, and yet we have somebody here who, in a way, kind of does have the power. I mean, if you've done any study in United States history, all you have to do is think, like, if you have the power to ruin somebody's life, all you have to do is say, hey, as an example, what happened during the Joseph McCarthy scare? If you labeled somebody as a communist, then they were put on a list, and that destroyed their lives, period. If you have the ability within the system to put somebody on a list because they're gay, but you can't say it's because they're gay, you could put them on for something else. That's something that's actionable, and you have the power to do that if you're working within the force. So that's ultimately very dangerous. I've seen comments before where people have said, what actual danger does the NIFB present? What actual things can they do? What can they actually enact to lead to some change that is ill for people? And I would like to point that there are people in positions of power, however small, who actually do believe these things that the NIFB has spouted, and as a result, they actually do cause harm. I would argue that entire city is made better by not having this person on their force. So, of course, Biblical Gender Roles, of all people, actually had an article on this pastor. So let's get into that article and see what we've got. So, we begin with his summation of the situation. Jeremiah Smith says, by the way, I went to Knoxville Pride not long after the pastor preached that. Guess what? They doubled the police presence because the one officer was advocating violence. Go figure. A Baptist pastor named Grayson Fritz in Knox County, Tennessee, said God has granted the power to government to arrest and execute homosexuals. He made these statements while preaching from Leviticus 20:13, which says that homosexuality is a capital crime. What is also noteworthy is that Pastor Fritz was a Knox County police detective for 19 years. He had quietly accepted a buyout a couple weeks ago. Some are calling for his police pension to be reviewed. He does seem to have some news articles on this. Let's see how long they are.
All right, we have some breaking news I want to get you up to date on. We're learning about an anti-gay sermon delivered by a now former Knox County Sheriff's detective. He's also a pastor at a local church. Detective Grayson Fritz in the sermon that is posted online saying at one point, quote, God has instilled the power of civil government to send the police in 2019 out to these LGBT freaks and arrest them and have a trial for them. And if they are convicted, they are to be put to death. That sermon was delivered by Fritz at All Scripture Baptist Church here in Knoxville. We reached out to the sheriff's office for comment. Sheriff Tom Spangler says Detective Grayson Fritz turned in his request to take part in a voluntary buyout 2 weeks ago, and Fritz is no longer on active duty. He is on paid sick leave until the reduction in force takes effect on July 19th. Well, Sheriff Spangler saying in a statement, quote, I want to be very clear that it is my responsibility to ensure equal protection to all citizens of Knox County, Tennessee, under the law, my oath, and the United States Constitution without discrimination or hesitation. Rest assured that I have and will continue to do so. Of course, we'll have more on this for you tonight at 6 o'clock.
Okay. So is there anything else in the other news article here?
I am over the
Okay.
church. I am the head of the church. And I say who comes or goes. And, those people are not permitted to join. Those people are not permitted to attend.
A pastor for All Scripture Baptist Church and a veteran detective with the Knox County Sheriff's Office defended a heated anti-gay sermon. He labels the LGBT community freaks and reprobates and called on the government to execute them.
Can we just acknowledge that it's actually very good and very honest that the news organizations around Knox County actually are reporting on this without saying things like, what's a way we could spin this? We can actually spin this in the pastor's favor pretty easily. A pastor was recently arrested for exercising his First Amendment rights. The LGBT organization is trying to take out a veteran of 19 years of our police force for exercising not only his freedom of speech, but his duty ordained by God to his church. Like, we could do that. We could actually do that. We could spin this that way. I am so thankful that these news organizations are not spinning this in a way that would be incredibly easy for a heavily evangelical society to take in a positive way for them. Like,
remarks came in front of his congregation earlier this month, adding he hates people who are gay, and others should too.
God has instilled the power of civil government to send the police in 2019 out to these LGBT freaks and arrest them and have a trial for them, and if they are convicted, then they are to be put to death.
I don't think we really need to go terribly much further into there. So, also, you guys can actually get the awkward, the awkward, like, set of recommended videos. It's like, hey, Cirrus, do you want to watch Thought Slime? Or do you want to watch Exo Paradigm Gamer? Or would you like to watch Stop Skeletons from Fighting or Bellular Gaming? Would you like to watch either atheist evangelical content? Would you like to watch political right or left content? Or would you like to watch gaming content? My YouTube recommendations are everywhere. So, and Tippy, you asked what difference would it make. I'm curious as to what difference, what difference would it make in which way? Which way are you attempting to hold a position of what difference would it make? I'm curious. I'm not trying to like attack you or anything, but when I see something like that, I do have to wonder what the motivation is for it. Maybe incognito mode would help your recommendations. I mean, I don't care. Look, I am incredibly open with you guys. I stream enough on this channel where you guys see me, like, you see at least 7 to 8 hours of my day, usually. So what I watch on YouTube, you guys see it. So. Hello, Cirrus. Would you like to feel good about what you watch, or would you like to slowly die on the inside? YouTube algorithms. I have y'all to thank for the random PragerU videos on my otherwise pagan feed. I'm sorry. But while we wait for a response on that, if we get one. If we get one. Said he claims that this never affected his job as a police officer, equating it to if he worked at a Burger King, that he would still make food for homosexuals and not do anything to their food because it was his job to do so. This is the same way he carried out his duties as a police officer. That is not an accurate framing of this. That is not. Let me show you what an active framing, or what an actual, like, honest framing of this would be. It's not, I worked at a Burger King, and because I worked at this Burger King, I would feed the homosexuals all the sausage they desired. No, it would actually read more like, if you told your boss, or even your customer. Actually, no, yeah, your customers. Because as a police officer, you're a servant to the people around you. You are supposed to be a public servant to the proletariat. So, if that is the case, then it would be like telling the customers, I think that at least statistically, 2% of you are gay. So out of the 50 people in this restaurant, I think one of you should be poisoned. That doesn't mean I'm going to poison your meal. It just means that I think you should be poisoned. That's an accurate framing for this. Telling your customer base that you think 1 out of 50 of them should be poisoned. And then wondering whether or not you should keep your job after saying that 1 out of 50 of them should be poisoned by the food you make. So, good. I'm so worried about PaganTube. Any channel recommendations? Well, besides Ocean, obviously. I actually am not the right person to ask for that. But there are people in the chat who probably could help with that. I'm asking what difference would it make if the media spun it in a positive manner? I feel like a typical viewer would forget it and move on if an evangelical extremist saw it in a positive. Okay, so Tippy, the reason that it matters, context, they would still hold those views. So the reason it matters is because while you can't necessarily convince extremists, the public at large are going to see And we've actually done studies on this. When I did my racial crime video, I actually did cite a study from North Carolina that showed what media bias actually lends towards personal belief, and in police officers at least, media bias did lend to their schema, their perception of who they would deem as a criminal faster, and how they would act towards a person they deemed as a criminal. So, if you are broadcasting something to hundreds of people, thousands even for a particular county, if you spin a media message to be positive when there's an overtly negative thing happened, you generate sympathy for that pastor. All it takes is one person in that audience, even if the majority, and I agree with you, the majority of them will probably forget about it by next Tuesday. But if you can get at least a few people, especially some of the people who have power, to have generated sympathy for this pastor, you can actually create a larger political movement through the dissemination of that media. This is why it is so important for media organizations to be as honest as possible and not to frame situations in a very untrue light. So when we're dealing with something like this, let's say, as an example, media organization sends this out, and one person who just happens to be Christian and sees this, and this person has a lot of money and influence, a lot of political influence. This person says, no, I don't agree with that. That's not good that this person was arrested for just preaching the message of the Lord without actually hearing the context of everything. This person doesn't even have to be a homophobe. That person might not necessarily take any more time to research the situation. They will accept what the news has told them and move on with that. And this person could start a campaign, as it were, or even just press the right buttons and push the right envelopes in order to have this person keep their job. And this dangerous person now has the ability to maintain here. This is the idea. I need to finally do a video on stochastic terrorism. This is not the same thing so much as it is an example of one way that the model has a little bit of efficacy. So it's I can't think of a better way I can really explain it without appealing to a stochastic model, but I do think that is the better way of showing it, is when you spin something like that in a positive light, you generate a different idea for it. As another example, not to harp on it too much, because I know I've made my point. This is a thing we found with the Unite the Right rally, when a woman died at the Unite the Right rally, and people like Sargon and Akkad disseminated the stupid conspiratorial idea that she died of a heart attack and a car just whizzed past her. And then people were like, oh yeah, she was a fat woman and she died of a heart attack. Exactly. But no, what actually happened when you looked at the camera footage of what happened is the person who drove the car past her actually hit her with the car and killed her, and is now serving a prison sentence of over 900 years, to show an example of why we don't tolerate something like that. So, but Sargon has an audience of almost 1 million people who hear that and they go, that they trust Sargon. And when they hear something like that, they go, oh yeah, no, that's, they then tell other people, and those other people tell other people, and they go, yeah, no, nobody died at the Unite the Right rally. What are you talking about? I'm not kidding. 900 years. They gave him a life sentence plus 900 years to make an example of him. They trust Sargon. That was their first mistake. I agree. The problem is, though, that there are people who trust people like Sargon of Akkad. So, but anyway, that's my little brief thing of why it is actually why it's important, if you have a public platform of any kind, to not spin things in a way that manipulates your audience. Obviously give your opinion, and if your opinion happens to be, spun, that's fine, but do not try to look at a situation and go, well, how can we spin this to make this positive? That just, stuff like that gets to me. It does. Because for me, I have unpopular opinions. I know I've got some that are popular, some that people disagree with, but I'm going to give you guys them regardless. All right, so moving on. See what we have here. Said, in the recording above, after his initial sermon, which caused the media firestorm, he made it clear that if you listen to his whole sermon, he never called on individual civilians to kill or do anything to homosexuals. He was saying that God invested the civil government with this power to arrest and execute homosexuals. Okay. Well, one, the government isn't the only organization that is allowed to arrest. A civilian's arrest is actually a concept. So this take is already dumb. This take already doesn't work terribly well. But on top of that, on top of this, his sermon said that the government and government institutions, like the police force, should be allowed to do these things. And he worked on the police force. That's why there's a problem. Yeah, this is like a cult... XVDN, XVDVN. This is literally like a culmination of all the dumb stuff we've taken care of on this channel. This is NIFB and biblical gender roles together in one sandwich of dumb. Wait, there is a crossover between biblical gender roles and the transformed wife. They share a commenter called Trey, who believes strongly in the humiliation of woman. Issa, I need that crossover thing, because I've done a video with Mr. Atheist on the transformed wife, and I cover biblical gender roles on the regular, so I need this information. Hannibal of Carthage says Chuds probably laugh when they do that act. If you look at the video that I did yesterday, the live stream that I did yesterday, in that live stream, I went over the Daily Stormer's playbook of how to write an article effectively for the Daily Stormer, and in that they actually listed that one of their main goals was to make it to where any enemy of what they consider the people, basically what the enemies of white supremacist nationalists, any enemies that they had, they wanted to make it to where people would effectively laugh at their deaths. So when you say something like, yeah, they probably laugh at this when that act happens, yes, and that was in fact the goal. So, sorry. Stuff like that upsets me, so I have to get into it a little bit. But, that said, also, let me actually look at my live chat on the stream itself. There we are. I have to make sure that I have this set up as best as possible. All right. So we have to actually continue on with this, unfortunately. Those who were saying that he was inciting his church members or other civilians to go out as individuals and cause harm to homosexuals are factually incorrect, and the recordings of his sermon prove this. Well, okay. So I'm going to posit something to you guys. This is very important, and I really want to actually get your take on this, okay? So, if we have a situation... Hold on, go to BGR's blog, posted date 21 July 2017. We'll repeat the title. Trey's comments in this one. He's also frequently on the Transform Wise Facebook page. Okay, cool. Thank you. I will take a look at that. Okay, so if I were to tell you guys multiple times over the course of a year, right? Let's take one example. This is, again, the idea of something. This is the idea of stochastic terrorism. I say that people who eat Jolly Ranchers gummies, they don't deserve human rights. So I tell you that once, and you laugh, and you go, okay, that's funny, that's fine. Okay, cool. But then tomorrow, I do it again, and again, and I get more serious each time, to the point where it's no longer, it stops being a joke and a meme. I get to the point where I'm just like, no, seriously, the government should be allowed to make sure that anyone who is eating Jolly Ranchers gummies, anyone, they go to jail. And there should be no maximum sentence on that. And we do it again. 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 All it takes is one of you who read into the things I say like gospel, which I'm hoping none of you do. I'm sorry, there's a reason I put my sources in the descriptions when I do, like, edited videos. I don't want any of you to read anything that I say as gospel. I want you to look at my sources, come up with your conclusions, and let me know if you think I'm wrong. But all it takes is one of those people to go, no, he's right. He's right. We need to make sure that anybody who's eating Jolly Ranchers gummies, they need to be punished for this. They're right. No, he's right. It just takes one. It really just takes one. And that's the problem when you have somebody saying these types of things from the pulpit. Is advocating for making violence law advocating for violence? I believe it is. I think that making violence law and advocating for such is equivalent to violence. That's the principle of entailment. If the end result of your rhetoric would be violent actions on individuals, then the rhetoric itself is violent because of the things you are saying. Words have power, and anybody that thinks that words don't have power is living in a fantasy world that I don't take part in. Jolly Ranchers suck, don't at me. Isn't this how Pizzagate happened? Or am I misremembering? I do not remember. Actually, no. That is actually kind of how Pizzagate happened, because there were, like, Alex Jones and a lot of people covered it to the point where one person, like, ran in there guns blazing. Wasn't that what happened? I could be wrong. But that's, I seem to remember that being how that happened. So this isn't even like a reductio ad absurdum of how we go about this, if that is the case. Pizzagate happened because someone on 4chan claimed they were a political insider, and then a bunch of bigger conspiracy news outlets like Jones covered it. Yeah, they said that there were people, they said that that was happening, but I believe there was actually one person that, like, went out and did something, right? Am I incorrect? Oh no, it actually led to harassment of the restaurant owners. It actually led to straight up harassment of the owners. Like, this actually led to real damage and criminal responses. On December 4th, 2016, Edgar Madison Welsh, a 28-year-old man from Salisbury, North Carolina, arrived at the Comic Ping Pong and fired 3 shots from an AR-15 style rifle that struck the restaurant's walls, a desk, and a door. He later told the police that he had planned to self-investigate the conspiracy theory. He saw himself as the potential hero of the story, a rescuer of children. He surrendered after officers surrounded the restaurant, and he was arrested without incident. No one, thank God, was injured. You know, this is exactly what happened at Pizzagate. So, at the end of this, it's not a, like, I saw in the chat, Zeogold said its official service has gone off the deep end. I'm hoping that was facetious, because I don't think I have, especially when, like, reality comports with a lot of the things that I'm talking about here. And I'm talking about this situation here. How are they the same? So if you are constantly disseminating false information and that false information leads to harm, that's the same thing happening. It is false that me saying that people who eat Jolly Rancher gummies don't deserve human rights. It is false. It is a falsehood. But all it takes is that one falsehood being disseminated enough times, and that falsehood being bad enough, that we get an Edgar Madison Welch coming out of this. If you want to look at the scholarly articles on this, it is called lone wolf terrorism. The more recent term that has been coined for this is called stochastic terrorism. Stochastic terrorism is the name that has been dubbed to it as of 2017, so shortly before I actually became a YouTuber. I wasn't even aware of this concept until a few months ago. And then lone wolf terrorism is what you'll actually find in the academic research on this. I can provide you guys with some links if you want, but there actually are cited studies on this. So, that said, and trying to pull this means that nobody would be able to say anything is a slippery slope fallacy. That is not what this means. That is not what it means. Not to mention, there's a difference between an individual saying something to an individual and a dissemination of information across multiple people, like in a church sermon or a news organization. And again, if you want to argue against this, that's fine. But I believe, if memory serves, are you in the chat? Yes, you are in the chat, Callan. We do have a sociologist in the chat who actually has done research. This research was at my behest on lone wolf terrorism and has sent me the articles on it, the research that has been done on this concept. Words are words, actions are actions, but there are words that lead to actions. Otherwise, there was no reason for us to actually go against someone like Hitler. Hitler never killed anybody. But his words led to actions. Actions that killed millions of people. Words are words. Actions are actions. But words lead to actions. Words are actionable. So, that being said, going by your terms, then CNN should be called out for spreading the falsehood that Russia messed with the election. Again, there's a difference, though. If there is a conspiracy theory that Russia messed with the election, and we find that that was a falsehood, that is a falsehood in and of itself. But what is the actionable measure against that falsehood? Well, if that turned out to be the case, then we would probably not have Trump. We would have a different president. That's as far as that actionable measure gets. What is the actionable measure to be taken if I tell you that homosexuals all deserve to die? If I say that. The actionable measure from that rhetoric is somebody killing someone else for being a homosexual. That is what is actionable here. It is the actionable end goal of it. So, those who were saying that he was inciting his church members are wrong. Again, that's factually incorrect. We have studies to back up that this is not the case. You can read more about this in the article from WBIR.com entitled Offensive and Reprehensible, Knox Code DAG Reviewing Case Involving Detective Who Condemned Gay People and Called for Their Execution in Sermons. Many Christians on Facebook and elsewhere have said that his statements saying he hates homosexual are the complete opposite of the Christian faith and that they hate any kind of this and it has no place in Christianity. So, however, those Christians who say this may want to consider the words of King David in Psalms. So, of course, BGR's first thing that they do here, over and above anything else, is to immediately defend the actions of grace of Pastor Fritz, and not only defend it, but try to give justification for it. And of course, because the Bible is a hodgepodge of many different ideas and philosophies, you can pull a lot of stuff from that. Also, Ocean is in the chat, so say hi to Ocean if you haven't already. Do I not hate those who hate you, Lord, and abhor those who are in rebellion against you? I have nothing but hatred for them. I count them my enemies. God both hates and loves sinners. While anyone who reads this blog will know that I have some disagreements with John Piper in some areas of theology on this subject of hatred in regard to sin, he has a great sermon and article about this entitled God Loves the Sinner but Hates the Sin, where he states the following. The problem with the statement, God loves the sinner but hates the sin, is that it's misleading. It's not a false statement, but what is misleading about this is the word but hates the sin. Because but should be and... Because but should be and. But because but... hold on. What? Is the word but hates the sin. So, that... One, this should be a fucking semicolon, I believe. And two, but hates the sin because but should be and. But should be and. What? What is but should be and? BGR, please. Please get an editor of some kind. The one you have is not working. Oh, but should be and. Okay, cool. Never mind. The sentence reads properly. The sentence does read properly. Because but should be and. Because that is still an improper sentence. The proper sentence would not be but hates the sin because but should be and. It should say the word he should have used was and. Because the phrasing of the sentence is poor. This is still incorrect. Like, yeah, quotation marks here would be incredibly helpful. Okay. God loves the sinner and hates the sin, but implies that he doesn't hate the sinner. That is not true. God does hate sinners. You are not a God who delights in wickedness. Evil may not dwell with you. Boastful, blah, 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 Bible passages. Nobody cares. I say nobody cares because, honestly, unless you guys want me to read the passage, it's literally right here on screen. I've changed my format for stuff like this so that it's easier for you guys to read the information that I'm reading. In fact, actually, let's make it just a smidge easier. Boom. There you go. Now it's a little easier to read. This infinite disapproval is what the Bible means when it says God hates sinners. He infinitely disapproves of them. What is the... What? Is there supposed to be a dash there? I could be wrong. Okay, sin is not sinful except as committed by sinful hearts. Sin is an expression of anti-God human corruption. Human heart. Ah! I love this apologetic. Okay, so by this apologetic, things like murder are only wrong if humans do them. By this particular apologetic, murder can literally only be wrong if someone with an evil, sinful heart does it. Otherwise, murder is not wrong. That's the reason that they do this. That's the reason this is worded that way. Sinful violations are owing to sinful hearts. Sin doesn't just hang out there with its own existence. It is in the hearts, or it is nothing. Sins do not suffer in hell. Sinners suffer in hell. I wonder what people would say that believe about hell, because he is not punishing sin in hell. He is punishing sinners in hell. He hates, now here's the paradox, and he loves at the same time. For God so loved the world that he hates. Hate and love are simultaneous as God looks upon hateful, rebellious, corrupt, loathsome, wicked, God-dishonoring sinners. YouTube may not send the notification until it's over. I haven't gotten one yet, but watching for... Let's go start up again. Okay. Now, here's the distinctions we have to make. This is just so crucial. I hope people will listen carefully. Hate and love both have two meanings each. Hate can be intense loathing of equality, and hate can be beyond... Again, the dash. Why? That intense and intentionally to destroy. Love, similarly, can be an intense delighting in equality and can also be an intense intentionality to bless even in spite of the presence of some unsavory quality. And now, after showing Piper's words on the subject of hatred in Scriptures, I will add a few thoughts of my own on this subject. If we examine the Scriptures, we find that a truth that is uncomfortable for many modern Americans. We are taught in our American culture that all forms of hate are bad and all forms of love are good. No, the hell we're not. If we were taught this, we would not be taught that there are enemies of the state that we have to hate. We are not. We are literally taught in our history classes that Nazis are bad, that we are to hate Nazis. Like, this is not how things are done. This is not how we do things. That's not how this works. You guys are going to have to watch me eat a chicken tender on screen. Yeah, on stream. That's what this pushes me to. Okay, so. Also, thank you very much for the subscription. A JoJo's Bizarre Adventure fan. So, the Bible teaches that hate is sometimes holy and love is sometimes vile. Consider these two passages from Scripture. Ye that love the Lord hate evil. For those that cause God gave up to them vile affections, for even their women did change the natural use into that which is against nature. And likewise also men, leaving the natural use of women, burned in their lust towards one another, men with men, working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves that recompense of their error which was meet. Okay, yeah, this is a thing that they got into during the Make America Straight Again concert. Like, that's not a, I'm trying to remember, brain. This is a thing that Steven Anderson and others said. That's like, oh, well, you're not gay because you had sex with a man and you liked men. You're gay because you burned in your lust for men. Whatever the distinction is there. As if nymphomania was like the litmus test for determining whether or not someone was, in fact, a homosexual. Like, nah. Also, have this lovely face. It will never end. Magapalooza. Nope. I'd say it's almost the same thing if Anderson didn't hate Trump. So, this is both a religious issue and a political issue. Oh? Is it? Is it? I've quoted the following statement from Leviticus 20:13 multiple times in this blog. If a man is to lie with mankind as he lieth with women, both of them have committed an abomination, and they shall surely be put to death, their blood shall be upon them. While no punishment is prescribed to women for lesbian relationships, the practice of lesbian relationships is condemned by God in Romans 1:26. But the government could punish lesbians in some way short of capital punishment. However, God has granted the civil government to treat men having sex with men as a capital crime. Wait a minute! Why the distinction? Why is there a distinction here? The government could punish lesbians in some way that's short of capital punishment. Oh, but the men having men and men having sex with men, oh, that's the one we have to murder. Like, what? Why do you have this distinction here? This arbitrary distinction. If the sin is the sin either way, then why do you have this distinction here? Like, is it... I'm going to propose a thought to you guys. Just a thought. Is it perhaps... And purple rhymes with orange actually got it on the head. Is it perhaps that BGR, in his spare time, happens to really enjoy lesbian porn, and he doesn't want to kill them for letting him get his rocks off? I could be wrong. But still. For he is the minister of God to thee for good. But if thou do that which is evil, be afraid, for he beareth not the sword in vain. Blah. For he is the minister of God, a revenger to execute wrath upon him that doeth evil. This power does not belong to individual citizens. There is no biblical warrant for individual citizens to execute men for having sex with women. Only the civil government has this power. Dude, my friend, biblical gender roles. My absolutely moronic blogger friend. Are you aware of what makes up the United States government? Are you actually aware of, like, the individual components required to create a government of any country? I'll go ahead and start it out for you, especially here in the United States where we have elected officials. Okay? It's very simple. Individual citizens make up the civil government. So to make this distinction is a bit awkward to me. Again, I understand where this pastor was coming from, and I partially agree with him. If we are talking about male homosexuals, then I 100% agree that the government has the right to make homosexuality a capital crime for men. If we are talking about female homosexuals, then I would support criminalization for female homosexuality in short of capital punishment. Again, why the distinction? This is literally how you can tell that biblical gender roles is actually not just ignorant, but a moron. Because he wants there to be arbitrary legal recompense for the two legal sexes. Okay. Sure. Why not? And oh, we got to the conclusion already. We're already at the conclusion. Also, yes, everybody in the chat, please press H if you think this is a fetish. Please do. We also need to actually take this guy here. Where are you? Copy. Pop back over here. Boom. Aha! We've done it. We have the H GIF. Ah, no, why? I want the GIF. Give me the GIF. Obviously, my stream does not want to be messed with today. That's fine. We already have it. We've got all we need. Many who even disagree with his statements have said that it was his free speech right, as well as religious freedom right, to make the statements he did from his church pulpit. But as I have stated on this blog several times, there are others in this country that want to criminalize what this man did from his pulpit. The criminal issue here is not... And again, if memory serves, right, we have Pastor Grayson Fritz. Let's take a look here. Grayson, buddy, my friend, have you been arrested? Or are you just under investigation? Nope. He was fired for his dumb shit take, but he was not actually... No, there was no legal recompense aside from being fired. So again, this is not a conversation about whether what he did is illegal. There's a conversation over whether somebody who espouses this type of rhetoric should have power. That's what the conversation is. Now, he's been forced to resign. Took a voluntary buyout 2 weeks ago that called for the government. He is on paid sick leave until the buyout takes effect on July 19th. The sheriff's office also shared his personal record with Knoxville News Sentinel, which showed only 2 minor reprimands. The record did not detail the times Fritz was involved in shootings. In September... Oh, wait. Do we have some other stuff? In September 2003, Fritz was one of 6 officers opened fire at a suicidal man during a suicide by cop encounter, according to court records and Sentinel archives. The man was superficially wounded by 1 bullet, while the rest of the 28 rounds fired, including 6 by Fritz, missed the man. Okay. In November 2009, Fritz was off-duty and working private security when he fired twice at a man trying to flee in a car from a Kroger parking lot in Farragut after shoplifting. According to court, a sheriff's office report, Fritz missed both times from close range, and the driver sped away but was later arrested. Wait a minute. Why would you fire a gun at somebody that's speeding away? Like, I recognize that you may want to stop the car, but what is the purpose of firing the gun at somebody who is shoplifting? Like, that is a really escalated response. That is an incredibly escalated response. Okay. So that's fun. But now, apparently, aside from that and a couple of reprimands, he actually had a pretty good career. But of course, he decided that he wanted to say that police should have the power to kill people for being gay. Okay. Almost as if somebody like you should not actually be able to wield that kind of power, because the chances of you having one of those days where God told me it was time. No, that's not good. Let's not do that. I'm not sure how to feel about that from Tony Designs. I haven't shot in years, but I was 1/8 on moving targets at one time. Apparently, I had more training than 6 cops combined. So BGR is better than the NIFB, is better than actual Nazis. I would say that they're like a couple of degrees of separation. But these same people do not realize that if this man were led away in handcuffs for what he stated from his pulpit, that this would probably ignite a second American Civil War, just as there are a few other issues that would like as well, like gun confiscation. So be careful of what you wish for. Criminalizing pastors preaching against homosexuality, because you may just reap the consequences of what you sow. Except again, the conversation was never about criminalizing him saying this. The conversation was about firing someone who should not be allowed to have this level of power when they are obviously an irresponsible and honestly not very well cognitive individual. This is a thing we would do for practically any officer in the force. We do this for people who are in the military as well. If you do not have the mental capacity to do your job and do it diligently and do it well, then you will be terminated. This is what happens when you're a servant of the general public. Or you're supposed to be a servant. They don't work so much that way anymore. But they're supposed to be that way. So, and yeah, like Yeb actually just said in the chat as well, his sermon damaged public confidence in the police as an institution. Public trust in the police matters a lot. Yeah. If you do not have public trust in the police force, then the police force will operate less effectively as a result. Obviously, there is another conversation that can be had at a later date over the efficacy of a police force and the way that it is maintained in the United States. But that is not what we're discussing here, much like the problem we're having currently with biblical gender roles. With their conclusions being about, their conclusions are being a bait and switch. The article says nothing about the free speech, or that says some stuff about free speech, rather, but it says nothing about what he did as criminal. What the article states, and what BGR says throughout the article, is about him being fired. And what happened was him getting fired. He never got arrested. None of that happened. But BGR needs to paint the narrative that an arrest happened, or paint the narrative that an arrest could have happened, so that they can sell this honestly delusional idea that free speech is under attack. Yeah, sorry, no. Hate speech is protected speech in the United States. Whether or not you agree that should be the case, that is currently the case. What he said is protected in the United States as long as we cannot determine that there is a direct incitement for violence. I would argue that his language is an incitement to violence, but legally it doesn't quite work that way. And because it doesn't work that way legally, no arrest happened. But one needed to happen for BGR's article to hold any weight. But of course it doesn't. Because the only way that they could actually work, or the only way that BGR could actually work something like this is by lying. So, but this is not the only thing I want to go over. There's some other things with BGR that are kind of important that I would like to go over. So, what else is important? So important that I'm yawning about it. Jeez. This isn't about me. Where did your thing go? Okay. Where is the has BGR been doxxed? How long is this article? Oh boy, that last comment is absolutely like that is lovely. It's pathetic how evil leftoids are allowed to get away with what they do. Okay. Sure. So, let's see what he says here. So I get up this morning to check my email, BGR inbox, and it is getting blown up with several regular readers of mine telling me that I have been doxxed. If you're wondering what it means to be doxxed, it's to publicly identify or publish private information about someone, especially as a form of punishment or revenge. An ex-Democrat staffer was recently sentenced to 4 years in jail for doxing Republican senators during the Brett Kavanaugh hearing so that people would show up at their homes or call their wives to intimidate them. Since starting... sorry, I need to actually... I came here, from the water park in order to help out Dan on Truth Wanted, and in so doing, I actually was completely stuck in my trousers still, my water trousers, which are not the most comfortable thing to work in, honestly. If you've ever sat for a long period of time in swim trunks, it's less than comfortable. So... since starting this ministry, I've had multiple people think they have found out who I am. In the first year of my blog, there was a flurry of people trying to figure out who I was. I had one person in 2015 tell me that they think they found me on Facebook based on this statement I made about me and my page. I'm a mid-30s white male. I was born and lived around southeastern Michigan. I was divorced and remarried. I have children from a previous marriage till a marriage experience exceeds more than 15 years. And what you've gained from that is nothing but misogyny and idiocy. Excellent. Renata says she thinks she should chime in because she gave me the wrong name. Allow me just a second. Renita. Renita, I have sent you a message on Discord. Respond and let me know whether I can send you a call over this real quick. Okay, that said, I will give my first name, and that is Larry. According to howmanyofme.com, there are approximately 957,000 men in the world in the United States with my first name. So if you think you can somehow find out which one of those out of almost 1 million guys I am, go for it. They zoomed in on southeastern Michigan that used my name was Larry and that I was Baptist. I had 5 children and a wife. who was a nurse but now disabled. Of course, they were wrong about who they thought I was, but at that time I decided to remove that I had lived in southeastern Michigan just to make it a bit more difficult and avoid the annoyance. Then the same guy comes back about a year later with another Larry from southeastern Michigan, who I supposedly was, and he was wrong yet again. But this time I did not point out his mistake, because I did not want him to keep learning from it by playing 20 questions with me. The first public outing happened, and that went viral, and that was when that I really was Matt Perkins, a non-Christian who was a biblical studies scholar who was just trolling people. Then I was Lawrence Ham from Pearl River, Louisiana, so attempts to dox me are nothing new and something I've had to deal with for years. But what happened this weekend was new. Okay. How? I don't know if this is the same researcher from 2015, or if they've been obsessed with finding me for the last 4 years, or a totally different one. I'm thinking it was someone different because this time they did not come to me to get my reaction first. He or she just gave his theory of who I was on another blogger attempt to expose me. Also, this guy or gal did a lot more data mining and matching on Facebook than any other person did. This guy may actually be a professional PI. Okay. I think he centered his search on two different things that I've talked about. The first was the statement I made last year when I wrote about my caregiving experience with my disabled wife and my article, Advice for Caregiver Husbands. I do not want this man looking over anyone disabled. I'm sorry, no. My wife was a nurse's aide and then became a nurse and worked for the same hospital for about 20 years before she had a car accident at the end of 2012. She struggled with her weight for years and had a gastric bypass in 2011. A little over a year later, we were married in a little over a year after we were married in 2010. She was my second wife. I had to divorce my first wife for adultery. See my article, If We Treated Divorce Like Killing, for my exhaustive study to the conclusions of divorce from a biblical perspective. Okay. Fair enough. The gastric bypass actually caused her to have cardiac issues. Yes, it is strange, and I did not know gastric bypasses could do that, but they sometimes do. She had what appeared to be a mild heart attack as a result of complications from the bypass. After this, she would have times where she experienced lightheadedness. She had to get on heart medication to regulate her heart. Eventually, she had to step down from her nurse manager position on a surgical floor to just being a regular floor nurse on a contingent basis. This let her work less hours and set her own schedule. He took the statements that I made about my son dropping out, getting his GED, and becoming a plumbing apprentice, and set out to data mine against Facebook for this criterion. And then, voila, this researcher finds a Larry in the South who married a nurse wife in 2010. She had a gastric bypass. Hello, Yumi. He has 4 boys. Hello. And a girl. One of his sons is a plumber's apprentice. Why am I addressing this particular doxing attempt? So there we have it. BGR unmasked. Well, not so fast. But before I point out some flaws in this latest theory of who I am, I want to address why I'm going public on this one when I didn't address the other ones. It's because he found you. No, that's not why. The reason I'm addressing this particular doxing attempt is because, unlike the other guys that were on Facebook, the person is trying to reach out to me because he was harassed on Facebook yesterday. He had someone send a nasty Facebook message to his account with doxing links. He reported it to Facebook and also reported the 2 sites in question that were involved in this latest attempt. He emailed me to let me know what was happening to him. He was understandably upset that people had exposed his disabled wife and his 17-year-old daughter online, as they were, and he's thinking about getting a lawyer to go after both sites in question if the harassment continues, and they do not remove the offending pages. While it is still legal technically to dox people over the age of 18, they exposed a person's 17-year-old daughter. I sent back to him that he needs to lock down his Facebook better and talk to his wife and kids and let them know. I also suggested that he take a screenshot and perhaps let his local police know about the harassment he received on Facebook. He is taking many steps today to protect his family because of this assault on them, and it was very sad to see. Debunking the last doxing attempt. I did the same thing for my own story. Blah, 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 blah. Do you have anything that is important here, aside from just saying, I wasn't doxed? I'm very sorry for the man and his family that have been falsely accused and dragged into this. I'm sorry your family is having to suffer because of this. Larry, your family, that family is suffering because of you. Like, yes, somebody actually did try to dox you and is attacking a family that didn't deserve this. But at the end of the day, the people who are responsible are the doxer and you. But how would the guy who people thought was BGR know how to contact BGR? Well, contacting BGR is pretty easy. Like, his email and everything are public. So, there is that. So, also, that said, I'm also calling Renita Chan, who was in the chat, because there's something that they wanted to say about the Larry situation, the BGR situation. Anywho, let me see if I can hear you.
Hi.
There you go. How's it going, Renita?
It could be better. I am a little bit sick, actually.
I know the feeling. I can't breathe in cold air currently.
Yeah. I actually went to the doctor, and I have pharyngitis, which is essentially like strep throat, except you don't get a fever.
Ugh.
Yeah, I've had strep several times. Used to a lot more before I had a tonsillectomy. And my mom asked the doctor when I got strep immediately after the tonsillectomy. They're like, "Hey, I thought she wasn't going to have this anymore." The doctor says, "Well, she might not have tonsils, but she still has a throat." So
fair.
Anyways, I did want to sort of explain why I wanted to get BGR's name. And it's not really for a malicious reason. It's actually because I'm concerned for not just him, like not just his family, but also for people who could be like reading this, who might get it in their heads that, yeah, I should go after 12-year-olds. I really should, strip away all of the rights from my daughters, but promote my son. Yeah, that sounds great. It's more like I wanted to keep an eye on him in case he did actually publish anything extreme. And if I knew what his real name was and where he was, I could effectively talk to the police about this and say it was incitement. It was not for any malicious reason.
Well, that's fair, but at the same time, pursuing something like this and pursuing private information like that is not doxing. It's making that information publicly available. So again, those are not the same thing.
Mm-hmm. That, and I do actually have friends who are police officers, and I did talk to them about it. As in, like, if I get the name, I will hand it over to them and ask what I should do so I can do this legally without, being arrested or getting in trouble or really causing anyone else to get in trouble in case I got the wrong name.
Fair. I had a similar situation when God Gun Guts and Glory decided that he wanted to put my face on a thing and fire a gun at it repeatedly. I contacted the police and said, "Hey, when someone does something like this, is there any action that can be taken? Is there something that can be done when somebody is doing something that is so obviously be construed as a threat?" And what they basically told me was that it was a step to the left of an actual threat, so it wasn't quite close enough. It would be a point made in a case against him should he do anything, but it by itself was nothing they could do anything about. And I'm like, that makes sense. But,
Yeah, I'm actually reminded of the guy from, if you've ever seen the Disney Pixar film Bolt, that guy who was essentially Penny's agent, the little girl's agent. And we're like, hey, let's put a pin in that. It's like, I think that's probably what the police were doing with like yeah, this guy is shooting a picture of your face. Let's just put a pin in that just in case. We'll keep that on record.
Yeah. That way, in case he does something dumb, then they've got that and it's available for use. But it's not something they can do They can do anything about immediately.
Yep. That's why I said like the putting a pin in it.
Yeah. But that said, it's really easy for people to find me. Like, there's no sense in doxing me because like most of my information is pretty publicly available. So it's like, yeah. It's there. And I actually
really
do that. What's up?
Oh, sorry. Go on. I didn't mean to interrupt.
I'm gonna say, and I do that one because I'm live a lot. It would be really easy for me to like slip my real name on accident, so it's just kind of available and out there. So I just said screw it. The only things that I don't give are like my location, obviously.
Yeah. Like I've stated that I used to live in Knoxville. I don't anymore. Some people out there know what my real first name is, but I don't really give that out a lot, even though, like, if they just knew my first name, it wouldn't be that bad because it's extremely common.
Mm-hmm.
However, if my middle, then I'd be like, okay, why do you want this information? I'm just a 22-year-old, and I'm not doing anything dangerous or, ooh, we need to report her to the police. We're going to call her house and send a bunch of pizzas there. Because really, what have I done that warrants anything?
Fair. Now, CC Sleeper says, even if your info is publicly available, it's at least unethical to dox people. No, I agree with that, at least. Like, it is unethical to dox someone, to make publicly available private information like that, because, again...
Yeah, that's why I wasn't going to do the whole, oh, let's make this publicly available. It's like, hey, Mr. Police Officer, I think you should know about this, Larry guy.
Well, it's like with what I said earlier in the stream, when I pointed out that, hey, there's words that are actionable. What matters when we're evaluating whether or not particular words are harmful is when we're trying to construe what particular actions can be taken from those words. And an action that can be taken from doxing is reciprocal damage.
Mm-hmm.
He's Cirrus, just Skeptic is not his legal surname from Purple Land with Orange. Oh, jeez. Anyway.
Why, Chan's not her real last name?
I don't know, even if, I know that you've mentioned before that, like, you'll come to, like, some of the cons that are in the area that I'm in. Given that the amount of time that I've known you as Renita, I will probably still call you Renita in real life, because that's just what I do.
Yeah, that's fine.
Like, I'm not going to lie, at Faithless Forum, it was really awkward for me to call Zod Jeremiah. I still called him Zod, and I still call him Zod to this day.
Well, I mean, bird situation, if you've heard of that film.
It's a
where,
what
like,
situation?
that's not... Lady Bird. It's essentially like, there's a girl who has essentially, she has this legal name she doesn't really like. So she picked a name for herself, Lady Bird. And that's what she prefers to be called by. It's the only thing that she will answer to. So it's sort of like, I picked my identity.
Yeah.
This is something I chose.
Also, Tony, it's not a dox on Zod. Everybody, like, even Zod's newest episode, which I've seen the script for, he literally calls himself Jeremiah in the episode. There's no doxing saying that his name that's publicly available is Jeremiah.
Yeah. It's like people going like, I'm going to dox Mr. Repsion, when it's just like, he used to end out all of his videos saying his, like, first and last name.
Genetically modified skeptic needs to be stopped. Everyone, his real name is Drew. If you didn't know.
Fire.
Like,
let's attack Markiplier. His name is Mark Edward Fishbach. Let's put that out several times.
With that said, I am going to hop off of this call and then get ready to move on with the stream.
I was just good talking to you. I might attempt Temmie voice.
You might attempt Temmie voice? Well, go ahead and do it. Yep. I've been doing silly voices all day.
Hooey! I'm Temmie. And welcome to Toy Shop.
All right, that was mildly terrifying.
I'm sorry. I am a little sick, so it normally
okay.
sounds better.
It like cracked at the end, and I'm just like, that became
I
unsettling.
really want some dog residues, but I need to pay for college.
God damn
This is like,
This is the
Is this
context
funny
for
to
this.
you?
The context for this is
I'm
so
the one with the degree.
lost. Like if anybody in the chat has not played Undertale, there's like no context for the words that you're saying.
yeah, I know. Like the
Tem has
grad
a
school thing.
degree in Tem studies.
I love it when she ends it there.
Is this funny to you? Are you laughing? I'm the one with the degree.
I love how it takes her only like 15 seconds to get her degree as well.
If only it were that easy.
If only. All right. Well,
I
thanks
was okay.
thanks for hopping on, Renita, and we will continue on. All right. With that said, and now that we have been mildly terrified by Temmie, sir, has ever been on WoW or something similar? Guild meeting. It's so weird when you do that. I've done something similar. I've met many of the people who I played League of Legends with, and the first meetings are always a bit strange. I also met many of my collaborators at Faithless Forum. Again, same kind of idea. Meeting them in real life for the first time is kind of strange. The second time, it was just kind of just hanging out with people. Like, it was weird that group also included, like, Matt Dillahunty and Aaron Raw and Seth Andrews this last time. But given that, like, to me, like, there's the YouTube skeptics and the YouTube atheists that I'm a part of, and also kind of like the YouTube leftists now as well, that, like, this is the group that I generally am a part of. And then there's, like, Matt, Aaron, and Seth Andrews, like the unholy trinity, that are just, like, kind of above and outside of that little purview. So, like, hanging out with them is just kind of weird on top of everything else, I'm not even going to lie. And yeah, no, seeing Jack in person, I don't think it was weird. I enjoyed it. We got to sit down and eat Chinese food. So, that's it. Aaron Raw is literally above. Purple. Ah, dang it, that's right. There was the art protest. I need to actually go to the art protest at some point, just to hang out with, like, you guys and Hemet Meta and Aaron and everybody. I mean, obviously also for the protest itself. I'd really rather that whole thing just get shut down. But, you know. Alright, that all said. I have enjoyed this stream, and what have we gotten from this? Well, one, BGR has not been doxxed, which I am at least thankful for. I don't think the public needs all of his information, though I would like the police to have it, given the yikesy shit that he says. Honestly. We also have gone over his views on the NIFB, or at least, in short, Pastor Grayson Fritz, who is still a member of the NIFB from what I understand. So, we have gone over some of that. And it is weird that, like, these things that were separated in everything but ideology are slowly coming together in fewer degrees of separation. So, maybe we'll actually see a blog from BGR on Steven Anderson at some point. I'm fairly certain that'll happen eventually. Where are you on the political compass? I'm around center-right libertarian, but not really super right. 34% right, 60% libertarian. On the political compass? Sure, I can actually show you mine right now. Hey. Let me go ahead and make it to where I can even see the stuff on my desktop. There you go. That's where I sit on the political compass. The last time that I took it. Let's do that. There we go. Just pull up a picture of loss. So, that's where I sat the last time that I took it. So, there's that. But it is good to know that I have some people who are a little more right-leaning in my audience still, because in an ideal world, I at the very least have not created an echo chamber. Where's Yumi on the spectrum? Probably just, like, chaotic neutral. But, the political compass itself is kind of a limited tool. I agree with Yab on that. It only can show things in 2 different axes, but there are different compasses that have multiple axes for determining where somebody sits in any particular area. A Necco chamber. All right. Well, with that said, we have gone over a bunch of stuff on BGR. We have, at least I've enjoyed conversation with you guys. I do want to make sure that I get to Superchats if I've missed any. I think the only ones that have happened have been Ashley saying just because I can't deal with it, and Jack and Quill for $15. Shut up and take my money now that I have it, and try not to die via tree. I'm going to do everything in my power not to die via tree. We literally have not been sleeping in our own bed because the bedroom is what got skewered. So we've been just piling in Erin's room because me and Raz sleeping in our own bed right now causes her panic attacks, and I'll be honest, I don't know if it'll cause me any because I haven't tried. And hopefully I don't have to anytime soon. I'm just avoiding sleep. So, wait, skewered? Uncle Ubi. Oh, you don't know what happened. Here, allow me to show you. Because I have the stuff here. Where did I put it, though? That's the question. Aha, here we are. So, Ubi, and anybody who does not know about what has happened, we are currently down 1 room in the house. Why are we down 1 room in the house? Well, so this is a branch. A roughly, what is that, 25 feet? Maybe less, probably less. No, it's not 25 feet, more like 20 feet. But that is a very large branch, right? And it is from a very tall tree. I know perspective is kind of wonky, but I should actually get a picture standing on top of the house looking directly at that tree so you guys can get an actual good sense of scale for how large this tree is. Okay. So that branch right here, it's on the ground for a reason. It broke off from this tree. Look at the tree's proximity to the house. It went straight down into our roof. This is the hole where after it hit and skewered the roof, it broke off and rolled off. And what does the view look like from inside? Well, that is the hole ripped through, and there's the broken bit of branch. This hole is about 6 inches from where my head is when I sleep. Roughly. All it would have taken is just a couple joules of extra downward force. And maybe even just a slightly different angle given that it was 6 inches away from my head. And, I'd be kind of dead. Or at the very least, in the hospital. That is what happened. That was yesterday. That was how our morning began. That literally, I woke up to Raz screaming, and I couldn't figure out why she was screaming, but all I knew was something was wrong. So I started screaming and panicking as well. I turned around, and I saw that through the roof. And I'm going to be honest, if you've ever woken up and had that feeling of you just woke up from a nightmare where your perception of reality isn't really all that good, seeing that hole rip through your roof after the loud crash and screaming that led to you waking up, that is not a pleasant thought. In fact, actually, from my last stream, Raz was not able to get a lot of sleep because sleeping right now is causing her to panic, because there's the thought process of sleeping will literally lead to this happening again. PTSD is a hell of a drug. So, all things considered, that situation sucks. That was less than ideal, but I am at the very least still alive. Raz is alive. We are all okay. and just maybe not in the absolute best situation possible. So, that or Surus grabbed a dryad from a naughty place. You know, I'm not saying that you're wrong in what happened. I'm just saying that there is probably a chance that what you're saying is correct. Also, this fan art was just submitted of apparently me in the Oval Office with Emmett and Raz. And Yumi. I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about that picture. I came close to dying several times. Not fun. You know, this is not the first encounter with death or close encounter with death that I've had. I did grow up in a ghetto, so my childhood history is one of at age 6 having a butcher knife to my neck, and by age 9 knowing what it felt like to have a shotgun aimed at your head and the trigger pulled. The only saving grace is that there wasn't any ammo in the chamber. These are experiences that I'm very familiar with, and very familiar with them from a young age. So maybe the fact that something like this happened to me is just kind of I've chalked another thing in the bucket of, these are the weird, fucked up things that have happened to me. These are the weird brushes with death that I've had. Maybe I'm in shock, or maybe there's also the chance that something like this is just kind of normal to me now, as screwed up as that is. So yeah, that's fun. These are not the only brushes with death that I've had experience with. Woo. But anyway, how are you guys doing? Since we're here and having this conversation. I want to take that moment to take a drink. Tony says, similar, I've had a pistol to my head, trigger pulled, guy had flipped the safety on, not realizing it, and it was off before. That is all that saved me. Yeah. I know how you feel, Tony. Though I recognize that that's kind of implied in the statement, that you've had a similar experience. You know, I know what that feels like. It's a very unpleasant thing. And it's a thing that you can call that image up instantly. It's not a thing you have to think on. It's a thing that comes in sometimes unbidden. Which I'm sure is also an experience you've had as well. It's less than pleasant. So yeah, fun stuff. Life's weird. But, with that said, I've enjoyed hanging out with you guys. I've enjoyed going over this article insofar as I can enjoy dealing with BGR. I'm probably going to do a video game stream here in maybe an hour, maybe less. I'm not certain what I'm going to be playing, given that I just finished Ocarina of Time, so I'm probably going to pick up something else. I'm not certain. If you guys want to throw some suggestions at me in the Discord, I may or may not agree with them, and I may end up playing something completely different from what you suggest. But, regardless, I will do something. It's not going to be another Zelda game. I love the Zelda series, but I'm going to play... It's the same reason that I didn't play Resident Evil right after playing Resident Evil. I would have loved to just play RE4 right after, too, but instead I played some Genshin. So, send me stuff over Discord. If you're not on the Discord, the new link should be in, not this video, but the last video that I did. If you go into the old server, there's a link to the new one in there somewhere. So, that all said, I've enjoyed my time with you, and I'm going to be heading out, and I will be back here in a bit for more fun stuff.